producer of the film. Well, guess what liberal Hollywood did in reaction to that? They moved the entire Hollywood film business to Michigan. The only thing working in Michigan is they went from 0 films in 1 year to 200 last year. Several $100 million boomed into their economy, and it created a little bit less than 10,000 new jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, tax cuts work. Reagan proved it, and the liberals prove it in Hollywood, and the liberals running Michigan even proved it. Tax cuts work every single time. So, what's the answer to all this? Well, I'll tell you a couple things that are the answer. Let's talk about the Olympics first, because I'm a big sports guy. And I don't know how many of you, let's have a show of hands. How many of you watched the Winter Olympics that just ended? Okay. And how many of you know the United States won more Olympic medals than not only any time in history for us, but any country in the history of Winter Olympics? And do you know why that was? Because we named the right CEO to head the Winter Olympic Committee. A bold, brash, audacious New Yorker by the name of George Steinbrenner, the owner of the New York Yankees. In 1988, he was in charge, in 1988 Calgary Olympics, the United States had the worst performance ever, and they went to George Steinbrenner and said, we need a guy like you to turn things around. And George Steinbrenner agreed to take over the Winter Olympics as CEO. And he spent the last 20 years turning it around. And here's George's attitude. We are going to be #1. There is no excuse. There is no #2. There is no reason in the world after I spend my time, and I dedicate every second of the day to making you #1 and raising you the money to be #1 and instilling the confidence in you that we are the United States of America to be #1. No excuse will be accepted. And 22 years later, we won more medals than any team in history. Now let's take it to another country, Canada. How many of you know that Canada just had the greatest performance in the history of their country? Because they emulated the United States and George Steinbrenner. They put together a program called Own the Podium. Own the Podium. Now, Canadians remind me of libertarians. They're kind of shy. And they don't like to scream to the world, we're the best. We're a party of engineers and professors who are a little bit shy about ego and screaming out how great we are. And Canadians are just like that. And some of them actually said publicly they were embarrassed about a program called Own the Podium. Too much ego. Well, for the last 4 years, they raised hundreds of millions of dollars. They trained their athletes. They instilled in them confidence that we are #1. Canadians are not going to stand for being #2 or #10 anymore. They were hosting the Olympics. It would be a national embarrassment if we don't win. And the Canadians went out and they won more gold medals than any country in the history of Winter Olympics. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what this party needs. We need to start a program called Own the Election. And we're gonna own the election. It may take 5 years. It may take 10 years. It may take 15 years. It may start with electing 1 lonely councilman. It may start with 1 lonely mayor. It may start with 1 governor, Ken in Ohio. It may take 5 years. Maybe he won't win this time. Maybe he'll win in 4 years. But with the right kind of leadership, with George Steinbrenner, with someone who understands how to be a CEO of this party, and you can make your decision who that is. I'm not here to politic. I'm here to just tell you the game plan. With the right kind of CEO and leadership, and the right kind of moxie, and brashness, and audacity, and belief in your goals, we can become #1, and I promise you, we will become #1. Now, let me tell you a story you should be proud of that goes hand in hand with that, because it's my proudest story as a father. I stood in front of you for 2 years. I believe to this day, the reason I won the vice presidential nomination in 2008, I was a nobody who came out of nowhere. I'd never been in politics in a big way in my life. I'd never run for anything big in my life. And suddenly I'm running for president in a party I'd never been in my life. Had just left the Republican Party weeks before, and I'm in a group just like you saying I'm running for president as a libertarian. People looked at me cynically and skeptically, and they said, how long will you be here? Why should we believe in you? You're going to leave us soon after the election if you don't get the nomination. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I became your vice presidential nominee. And I believe I became it because I made the bold decision to name my 16-year-old daughter to give my nomination speech at the convention. And you should have seen the eyes of the women delegates out there who saw this poised, brilliant, beautiful 16-year-old give this incredible knockout speech in front of an audience of about 1,000 people and delegates and a live national TV audience on C-SPAN, the first public speech of her life, and she hit a grand slam home run. And everybody came up to me after the speech, women who I never met in my life mostly, and they said, you know, if you could raise a daughter like that, a homeschool daughter like that, you could be one of the leaders of this party. We could see you as president. Changed everything.